Hello again, Broncos country.
Really excited to chop up some Broncos with you all this week.
Bourbon, Broncos, and no BS.
It is the time, your favorite time of the week. We're not for the Raiders, Chargers, or Chiefs. So grab your brews in your fantasy league. We got that blue and orange blood that you bleed. The most loyal fans there ever could be. We are that mile high Broncos country.
Orange Weekly. Fans, brews, and Broncos news. What up, Broncos country? We are here for an orange alert. Something happened today. I don't know what's going on. David and Ray said that we should do a show tonight. And I'm like, well, we did a show last night. Something about Peyton Manning coming out of retirement to be the Broncos quarterback. Is that right?
Not close, Kevin.
Not close?
No.
Well,
You're
then,
far.
that's right. If you didn't hear, which I'm sure everybody watching right now has heard, Teddy Bridgewater was selected to be the Broncos quarterback, and it is time to get some reactions from you all. So post your comments, post your questions. If you know what, during this show, if you're unhappy with the decision, let it out, air it out, go for it, get it out of your system. Perfectly understandable because a lot of people wanted Drew Lock to win the job. But bottom line, we want this guy to win. We want Teddy Bridgewater to go out there and win us some games. Past that, there's a lot of stuff to talk about, and glad you're all here. So hit that share button for us, hit that like button, the heart button, whatever you want. But Ray, it's good to see you. It's been a while since we've had you on. All of us really, since it's been the off season and whatnot. But we'll start with you, man. Big news today. What do you think?
Gosh, it's interesting. I think from the beginning, I think we had a pretty good feel that I think Vic and the coaching staff they really were rooting for Bridgewater to be the guy. I mean, there was zero doubt that they were looking for somebody besides Locke. They were involved in basically every quarterback question, every available quarterback in the offseason. That tells you that they weren't quite confident in Locke, although I think everybody would agree that the Staffords and the Aaron Rodgers of the world would certainly have been an upgrade. It becomes interesting that the upgrade is Teddy Bridgewater. Certainly there's the Peyton connection and all of those things. But I think at the end of the day, this is the choice that they wanted from the beginning, and Locke just never really came out and impressed. I thought he had a great couple of outings in the preseason. I'm sitting here today, though, man, and I feel like we're taking the lesser of two evils, and that's the challenge that I have right now. And so we'll get into it today, but I think this move really shows you that we were choosing with the entire roster in mind. I think with Bridgewater, it gives our defense the best chance. It gives some of our offensive weapons the best chance. It gives our offensive line the best chance to be productive, and we'll get into it. So I think I'm optimistic, cautiously optimistic about the decision today.
That's fair. What about you, Mr. Puffball?
Well, we'll see. I think it's obvious to me that we see a choice here by Fangio and Shermer to try and save their jobs in September, as much as they can at the very least, because you've got immediately 3 games that coming out of the gate, whether they're real must-wins or not, depending on how your season goes, they're going to be must-win games in the court of public opinion. These teams went a combined 9-39. Our first 3 opponents did last year. It really doesn't matter what their records end up being later in the season. As far as the perception game goes, if you lose those games, you've already lost Broncos country if you're the coaching staff. So they're doing, in my mind, what they have to do to win those games. They're putting the most steady option available to them in the game immediately. And we were talking about this a little bit earlier, and we'll get into it, but I expect both quarterbacks to start games for the Broncos this season. But right now, they've just gone with Teddy because that's who they want to carry them through September. They want to get through these games that they should win by playing defense and just not screwing up on offense. Mm-hmm. You should be able to beat bad teams by doing it. And that's, I think that's what they're banking on right now, that these are still bad teams, still rebuilding teams that will be vulnerable to that strategy if you get steady quarterback play in there.
Yep. Now, here's a good question here posed. And, of course, when it comes to the draft, everything is, hindsight's 20/20, right? But if you had known that we were going to start Teddy this year, would you have drafted Fields instead to sit behind Teddy versus going for PS2?
Would I have?
Yeah.
Probably. But it's, I don't have the access to the evaluations, the scouting reports.
We're working on that. We're working on it.
Yeah, that inside
maybe next year
coming to us, guys. But until then, I was reading an Athletic article the other day, and it was a survey of agents from around the league about just how they thought about NFL GMs. Who they thought was the best GM, who they thought were, intriguing names to watch. And one of the names that got consistently named as the best talent evaluator in the NFL was George Paton. And it just reinforced to me that he is really well respected for a reason. People around the league from every stripe, people outside the league, people inside the league, all have nothing but superlative things to say about his ability to scout NFL talent. Mm-hmm. That, to me, has to have at least some sway in this Justin Fields argument. And again, he might turn out to be really good. He might turn out to be the starter the Chicago Bears need for 10 more years, 20 more years. I don't know. But for right now, for this year, I have to trust that George Paton saw something in his evaluation that made him say he's not the next franchise quarterback of the Denver Broncos. That's it for me. Best of luck to him in his career, and if he pans out, I'm going to cheer for him because I've liked watching him in preseason too. He looks good, but it's the kind of thing where you can't really evaluate that pick because he now has looked good in three preseason games and say that was what we should have done instead.
Right.
So for me, and we had talked about this a little bit last night when it came to that decision, just really quickly, I think even before you had Bridgewater, I think we had just acquired Bridgewater, before the draft or whatnot. Mm-hmm. You look at a guy like PS2 and you think back to how banged up our cornerback room was last year and how impactful that was. And I really believe we lost at least 2, if not 3 games last year near the end of the season there because we had no cornerbacks. And you see a guy like PS2 sitting there at, I think it was number 9. I can't remember what I had for breakfast, let alone what draft pick we were. And you see what this guy can bring to the table. And so I think when you're talking about building up the defense so that whoever the quarterback's going to be gives them a chance to win, I think it was a good move. So I personally, I would have said, doesn't matter, Teddy or Drew. Right now we got PS2 sitting there. He's not going to be there, much longer. So we got to snag him up. But it's going to be interesting for sure. So a couple things just to remind people, or maybe you haven't really watched any of the preseason games or know too much about Teddy Bridgewater, kind of like David, you were talking about, where George Paton was over in Minnesota. I think he was there when they drafted Teddy Bridgewater, number 32 in that first round of that draft, 2014 draft, I believe. He had a pretty nasty knee injury. It was so bad that apparently players were throwing up on the field, and he essentially took him out for 2 seasons. So that's why he's kind of getting back into it. He's not really mobile when it comes to, running around outside of the pocket like you would see from Drew Locker or whatnot, but he has that experience, 8 years in the league now or so. He's been around with multiple teams. And everybody has said really great things about him and his leadership capabilities. And I think that's what you need on the team right now is somebody who, bottom line, I don't care who it is, don't turn over the football. You don't turn over the football with a defense we have and we stay healthy, knock on wood. we are going to win the majority of these games this year.
And, let's be clear. We're not going to get the Teddy Bridgewater from the preseason that we do in the regular season. It's not going to be a complete transfer over. We just know that about the preseason. But it's been, you've seen enough from him already to think that with this supporting cast, it's, again, we were talking about this a little bit last night, and I think it stands true today. This supporting cast has come, it looks like they're going to, in that range of outcomes that was possible for them when they all came together, it's looking like they're going to come out on the really positive end in that range of outcomes. Like there's going to be 2 or 3 guys this season that take big steps forward. And, Cortland Sutton's going to come back and look, like his old self again. And if those things happen, it's, the quarterback situation to me, whoever they pick matters a lot less. You've really got weapons there that can elevate, I think, the quarterback play, no matter which guy it is.
And let's think about Bridgewater's career for just a second. Let's just take a step back for just a second. And I don't want to look too far into the future, but I think here's the reality is neither Bridgewater or Locke's going to be the starting quarterback in 2022. But we'll get there in just a second here. Yeah. But if we take a look at Bridgewater's career, I think, what'd you say, drafted in 2014, I believe he took I mean, he was on an upswing, right? The narrative around Bridgewater was he had a chance to be a big-time franchise quarterback. I think he won a playoff game in that time before that gruesome knee injury. Comes back and plays for the Saints, fills in for Drew Brees, an incredible roster around him, goes 5-0, I think, in that little stretch, keeps the Saints afloat, with that sort of safe play, that safe narrative. Lands himself a pretty sweet deal in Carolina and has a little bit of a flop. My big concern on that end, his best season with passing touchdowns was that last year in Carolina, and I think he had 17 touchdowns was the touchdowns that he had. And so those kinds of things are a little bit of a concern, but I want to circle back on a couple things. I think the narrative around Bridgewater of him kind of being a game manager and being somebody who doesn't make a lot of those mistakes, I think is exactly why he's in this role. Vic has never won a game in September as the Broncos coach. Vic is the #1 odds-on favorite to be the first coach fired in this NFL season. If you look at Vegas's odds, the Rager guys here, the bets guys here, this is literally a really a ploy to win some games and keeps Vic's job. Now let's pause for a second. Let's think about George Paton. Let's think about the roster building. Let's think about the 9th pick overall in the draft. I think George Paton, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt here, but I shit you not, if we go through 10 more quarterbacks before we get this figured out, I don't know what I'm going to do. But I think George Paton is onto something. The narrative in the NFL is changing. Marquee quarterbacks are starting to dictate where they want to go. And this idea of building a playoff caliber roster in a town, in a city as amazing as the Mile High City with one of the top fan bases in the world. We are the LA Lakers. We are the Miami Heat of the NFL. And so I'm going to give George Paton the benefit of the doubt. Bronco country, you're not going to want to hear this. George Paton doesn't give 2 toots about this NFL season. Now, I think he wants to give ourselves the best chance to win. If he gave a toot about this NFL season in the future, Drew Lock would be the starting quarterback. Boom. He wants to get through this year, build the roster, and become a destination city with a team that, many people are touting to be probably the best defense in the league and some of the best depth in the league, young offensive weapons. It's probably a long play. Sorry, Broncos. No. That's the reality. I think that's the move that's telling us here today. They don't believe in Bridgewater as the long-term quarterback, and they certainly don't believe in Locke as a long-term quarterback. So let's build it right, and let's see who we can pull in. I think that's the if you were to really, catch George Paton on a Friday night after a couple cold ones, I think he would, and he was being candid with you, I think that's what he would say is we're trying to win the Super Bowl in 2024, 2025, somewhere in that time frame.
Exactly right. I mean, if you can show these quarterbacks next year that, we're going to be looking for, you can show them, hey, look what our defense did this year. Look what we did with Teddy Bridgewater at the helm. Imagine what it could be like with you there. Either we barely made it in the playoffs or we did make it in the playoffs. We're there. We're looking for you to take us, the rest of the way. We're not asking Aaron Rodgers or somebody to come down to this 5-11 team, right? If we can be that 9-8 team and get in the playoffs, probably not win that wild card game, but even get there. I mean, that's going to be like what you're saying. Yeah, that's going to set us up for that success. And so, no, I don't see them. I think he's only on a 1-year contract to begin with, maybe 2 years, but they're not going to put him in past that. So,
and I'm not saying that the Broncos are throwing the season. The Broncos don't care about a higher draft pick in this next draft. I think the Broncos care about finding some of those key pieces, developing the roster to the point where we are a quarterback away from being a Super Bowl caliber team. I think right now we're a playoff caliber team with the way that things lie. I certainly don't think the wild card is out of the question. A 9-win season is out of the question, but that's sort of what my gut is telling me. I close my eyes. I can't see Bridgewater or Luck holding up the Lombardi Trophy at the end of this season, no matter what. So I think that's where I kind of my brain is going with this.
And it makes the most sense if they pursue Aaron Rodgers, which I know we already knew they had the interest in it this offseason if he was going to be available. It turned out he never was available. And that's the way it goes. But they've got the assets to make it happen with his contract.
Salary cap, yep.
Absolutely. They've got the assets to re-sign, key free agents. Let's not forget that there are going to be a bunch of members of the secondary in particular who are free agents after this year, and Von Miller as well. So there's pieces that are leaving, but enough money to keep the ones that you want and still bring in a guy like Aaron Rodgers. So this, in the prism of that decision, this Teddy Bridgewater decision does slide in and make a little bit more sense. Because like you were saying, Ray, if you were thinking about the future of this team as it's constructed, you start Drew Lock. And if not, and if he doesn't pan out, then you crash and burn and you get a higher draft pick and you start over with a new franchise quarterback in 2022. We'll just have to see. It's one thing with Bridgewater too, and it's I've seen a couple of comments about this. Health has been kind of an issue for him in his career. His not just the horrific knee injury. Last year in Carolina, he wasn't able to start every game. It's going to be something that bears watching, and that's why, Zach, we all agree with you. I think we were talking about this a little bit earlier. Drew Lock will start a game for the Broncos this year. I think he knows it probably too. And, we saw him be really professional, take it really well at his press conference, and talk about how he knew he needed to do the things that were necessary to keep himself ready and be a contributor to the team's success.
David, to that point, let's just put the conspiracy theory hat on for a second here. You can't start Drew Lock and bench him for Teddy Bridgewater and go back to Drew Lock at some point in time in the season, right? The rookie failed, right? But you could, in theory, go with the veteran. If the veteran stumbles, you could come back to Drew Lock, and if he stumbled, it would logically make sense to go back to that veteran. Yeah. I think in your mind, barring injury, going this route actually gives him a couple more options, I think, down the road to just give Drew Lock a little bit more time, see what's going on. I mean, if Teddy Bridgewater comes out 2-2 in those first 4 games, 1-3 in those first 4 games, Vic is probably gone. And 2, I think the Broncos country will be calling for the Drew Lock train to get going. So that certainly, could be in play there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, everyone, make sure you post your comments, post your questions, hit that share button, bring your friends into the conversation. We want to hear what you all have to say about the quarterback decision. Other less substantial news, we'll come back to the quarterback stuff in just a second. I want to get your guys' take on this. Another skirmish, if you will, between Bradley Chubb and Garrett Bowles. So bad that this is the second time this preseason during training camp, Garrett Bowles took himself off the field and was walking into the building in the middle of a drill. He was so frustrated. So twice now, at least during this preseason, Garrett Bowles has gotten overly upset to the point where he took himself off of the field. What does that say to you guys? Is there any concern there about Garrett Bowles' mental state in terms of letting stuff get under his skin, anything like that?
No. We've always known Garrett Bowles to be a guy whose emotions run kind of hot. It's kind of like, I think we talked that we have this football is family line that we get fed by the NFL network quite a bit, and that's a little bit overblown. But I do think it's like, a family, just in that when you're around the same guys, practicing against the same guys all day, every day, you start to figure out what annoys them and how they annoy you. You start to get under each other's skin better than anybody else knows how to, just because you're around each other all the time. So, it's two guys whose emotions already run high anyway, and that's how it's going to go. Yeah, it's going to happen. As long as it doesn't turn into, personal foul penalties for Garrett Bowles.
That's why I bring this up.
We'll see.
That's why I bring this up that's what I'm concerned about. Look, Garrett Bowles has done a lot to turn himself around and get to where he is, right? Obviously not having any crowd noise last year helped him out a lot. Sure. He's worked hard to where he is. Some things went in his favor this last year. What I'm concerned about, and I think this is maybe just because I've been burned too many times in the last 5-6 years, is any sort of regression there. I think we're all counting on him to be that guy, and I'm looking at this just saying, I hope this isn't a sign of things to come. I hope I'm overthinking this. But there you go. So I'm just going to throw that out as a little break from the quarterback talk. And I did it purposely because I wanted to wait for this guy to get here. So
I was just wondering if we're talking about how we get under people's skin. Everybody on the Orange Weekly show knows how to get under Jared's skin, who's actually on time for Jared time. So welcome, Jared.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I was at football practice and I heard the Orange Weekly caw. So I ran home a little tired, a little sweating a little bit. That's all.
Is that what we use to gather each other?
I did make a caw noise. That happened.
Okay,
but it was a little while ago. And Ray, I know you just gave him a lot of credit, but he was actually like on time last night.
Really?
It was.
Yeah,
it was.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you guys tell him it started at 6:30?
Yeah, right.
Smart. Real smart.
Yeah, absolutely. We make allowances for Coach over here. Yeah. So Jared, thoughts?
Yes. I'm probably not going to say anything that you guys haven't already. We talked about it a lot last night. And it's funny. I do want to give myself a little pat on the back because something I said was brought up today in both press conferences with Vic Fangio and Von Miller. Said the exact same thing I said last night. We're in a good position in a place that we haven't been in the 5 years that we've been doing quarterback controversies. It's we started with, there's three options here with quarterback battles. There's one person is much better than the other one, and sometimes it's kind of what you want. Two people are just kind of equal and shitty, and you kind of have to choose between the two shitty options, which is what we've had for the past 5 years. Or you have two very good, putting up 30 points a game quarterbacks, and we had to choose the best of the two. And obviously we're in a good position. We have a good quarterback room. David said it a bunch of times. Our floor is much, much higher this year than in past, and that's very nice. And we gotta roll with who our guy is and just root for the Broncos. That's really what it comes down to.
Yep. I'm glad you said that's what David was saying because I usually don't listen to what David says. So.
Kevin, I seriously, you're gonna have to get like a box to stand on if you want to say things to me. I cannot hear you.
I'm already sitting on two of these pads that lift me up.
Kevin, we'll get you some of those milk crates. You can climb up a couple of steps on some.
You know what? I've seen the memes and everything. Sorry, the memes lately. The memes.
I heard that. I heard that.
Yeah, I love it.
All right, so muted Kevin for the rest of the night.
All right.
Oh man.
Yeah.
But the other thing I want to mention too, and I thought was kind of cool that you really don't talk about the off the field stuff, like how he gets along with his teammates. I don't know if you mentioned Garrett Bowles' press conference when he said when they went to Minnesota, he brought him out for dinner. And Garrett Bowles, I don't know if it was a slight to anybody, but he said, I've never had that before, where a quarterback just brings me out to dinner and finds out about me. And I think there was somebody else that mentioned, he showed up and called one of the offensive linemen and already knew everything about their family, everything about like who they were. He did his research before getting to Denver, which means he really wants to be a part of this team and really be a leader of this team. So definitely something good on his point going forward.
Yeah.
It's one of the ways that if you're, buying into what the coaching staff is selling here, it's one of the ways he won the job is that it was, they said it just competition was very, very close, but those little things that he did, how he showed his experience as a quarterback in the National Football League really kind of put him over the edge.
Right. And I think, one thing that I'm thinking about here that I'm curious about your guys' perspective is who are the winners and the losers of this decision? I think if you want me to hold off, Kevin? What you thinking?
KJ Hamler, loser.
Yeah, I think my initial gut, is from the first 2 preseason games is that Jerry Jeudy and Bridgewater have found a little bit of a bond and a connection there. I think, to me, you're right, K-Dan. I think it's Cortland Sutton and it's probably KJ Hamler. It might even be a little bit of Noah Fant that actually are going to be the losers in this sort of decision here. I think Melvin Gordon is probably, or our running back room in general is probably going to get a little bit more love. I think we're going to see a little bit of that Teddy check down, that Teddy safe move. And again, I think Bridgewater and Jeudy just seem to have just that really unique connection. Right now, I'll just do a little teaser. Jerry Jeudy's only projected for 900 yards over under on the season. I think if you got some money in your FanDuel account, I would go smash that right now. I think Jerry Jeudy is easily our number 1 wide receiver with this decision. I think he's easily over 1,000 yards this year. So go smash that. And then finally, Jared, to what you were saying, I think another winner is our offensive line. You got an 8-year veteran behind the line, calling out the blitzes, calling out the mics, the 5-0s, all of those things. Bridgewater's just going to be better and more accurate at all of those things than Locke is ever going to be. And so when you think about some of the winners and you think about some of the losers, I think Judy's a big winner. I think the running backs are a big winner. I think the O-line's a winner, but I do think there are some losers in this, like the KJ Hamlers of the world.
Now, really quickly, Ray, while you're talking about some sports betting there, give us a little insight to Razor's year 2.
Yeah, so thanks for, rocking in. I think we're actually going to be rolling into year 3, but we finally got our ducks in a row last year for a weekly podcast and shows. If you're not familiar with the Rager Show, Jared and I run a weekly podcast that's all about sports betting. It's all about fantasy football, but it's through the context and the analysis of the Broncos game. And your boy, he's pretty damn good at what he does. And I think we won something like 73 or 74% of all of our bets last year, looking at bets for the Broncos games. And so right now, one little teaser, Jerry Jeudy over 900 yards is his projected total for the year this year with Teddy Bridgewater behind the helm. I think there's no doubt about it. Judy's going to be our number 1 this year. I think 1,000 yards, maybe double-digit touchdowns for Jeudy this year.
Now, I do want to ask you one quick question, Ray, along lines of betting and whatnot. Hypothetically, let's say you're in a situation where you needed some insurance, car accident, something. Would you put your money on getting better service from some generic brand insurance agency or Centennial State Insurance Agency?
I think Centennial State is the odds-on favorite, without a doubt.
That's what I was thinking, and I just wanted to hear it from you too. No, Centennial State Insurance Agency. Make sure you guys check them out. Home insurance, auto insurance, whatever you need, they'll take care of you. They spend time getting to know you as a person and what your individual needs are, so that they can give you the best service necessary. You're gonna have a dedicated insurance agent you can call whenever you need. Not somebody who is in another country and doesn't really care about you or your situation. They just want to get home for dinner or whatever. So make sure you give Centennial State Insurance Agency a call. Those guys are fantastic. 303-838-0554, number right below, scrolling right below David right there. So there you go.
Okay.
I can only do that when Ray's here. So
there you go.
I know that was a good one. That was a good easy one. So Derek said that Teddy hit Hamler for 50 bomb in the Vikings, and I don't think anybody's saying that he's not going to get his shots. I just think it's not going to be as often.
The chemistry.
I think that's what you guys are saying, right? Yeah, the chemistry piece. Yeah. And I'm interested to see. Obviously, none of us have been at the practices, but I'm interested to see the chemistry between Sutton and him. We don't really get to see. We haven't seen it in a preseason game yet, but I'm interested to see where that chemistry lies as well. And that
don't
might
forget
be
about Tim Patrick.
Not see it until 2 weeks, right?
Tim Patrick is the wild card here.
You know what? I know I drink the orange Kool-Aid a lot. I'm optimistic every year, but I'm going to go ahead and say for now, no losers. I think KJ Hamler is going to have a breakout year anyway, and so is Jerry Jeudy. And, Robbie Anderson and, now I can't remember the other guy's name, the other Panthers receiver's name last year, Curtis Samuel. Yeah. They both hit 1,000 yards last year, and they're both, quote-unquote deep threat speed guys. So I'm not totally sold that this is bad for any of the Denver Broncos weapons. If we've got a guy that can distribute the ball evenly without distributing it to the other team, he's got options out there. I think it's going to raise all boats here.
Yeah, and again, I'm going to mention this because Matt's not here. Matt's our offensive line lover of the group, but I'll go ahead and give some love to the big guys up front. He also mentioned in Garrett Bowles' interview, if you guys saw it, mentioned how Teddy Bridgewater tells them exactly where he wants them and where he's going to be in certain routes, right? And this goes back to, Ray, what you were saying, that veteran mindset of being able to go up to the line and be like, hey, I want my in between the guards to stay tight, and my tackles, this is where I want you guys to block him, so that if I need to step up into my pocket, I know where to step up into. And I think that's another level of, again, those behind the scenes stuff that we're not really seeing as fans or as analysts, but they are on the field, and that's that other stuff that they have to take into effect. And one of the questions here, and I'm sure you guys have brought this up, but this was a Fangio. Fangio had to make a decision to save his career in Denver. And that this is what he decided, and this is what he thinks is best for his team with his seat on the line. Right now, if this was one of those, if we were in Las Vegas, right, and he's got 9 more years on his contract, that's a different story. He could throw in whoever he wants and see what happens and get him hurt, and it doesn't matter because he's still got 9 years. This is Fangio in the hot seat making a hot decision for his job too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he will save his job for the month of September with this decision. Going forward after that, because like Ray said, it's a hot seat, and I don't think if he goes 2-1 in September and then 4-8 for the rest through October, November, it's still not going to it's not going to work out. So yeah. So
would you say that Teddy Bridgewater still has a fairly short leash?
No, probably not. I would say at this point they will wait as long as they can to turn away from him for a performance reason.
Okay.
For an injury reason is different, but I would say I wouldn't. I'd hesitate to say this even, but I think if Drew Lock had won the starting job, his leash would probably be shorter than Bridgewater's leash is going to be.
And that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, once again, everyone, if you didn't hear, Teddy Bridgewater, the Broncos quarterback.
That why we're here?
That's why we're here. What I am interested in seeing is the updated carousel. Just another name.
Number 11, or number 12, or whatever it is now.
Eventually, when they list all the quarterbacks on the TV, they're going to have to make a second column.
Oh God, we'll just have.
They're going to have to do it at halftime just to have enough time to be able to, because it's not going to be able to be played between snaps. That's for sure.
That's for sure.
Oof.
Hey, was this number 11 though?
I think it's 11 or 12.
11.
Yeah.
And get ready for if it's 11-12, if it's 12-13 next year, because it's probably going to happen again in 2022.
Hey,
we'll see what happens.
Aaron Rodgers number 12, right?
Yeah, it's true. Aaron Rodgers is number 12.
I think it's a sign, guys.
Yes.
Put it back in your pants, Kevin.
Boom! I figured it out.
Okay.
It's all some crazy ploy.
Oh boy. All right. Have we talked it to death? I think. Have we covered it from every angle? What do you think, fellas?
I don't think we've talked about Deshaun Hamilton yet.
Oh, okay. Well, so while we're talking about other guys who aren't actually members of the Denver Broncos anymore, do you guys remember? Oh, what was his name? Who was the other quarterback that wasn't Mike Anderson? The other running back that wasn't Mike Anderson after Terrell Davis retired. They both hit a foul. Tatum, no.
Right after, give us some more context.
So it's 1999. Terrell Davis has retired because his knee is, well, we know what happened to Terrell Davis's knee. We had Mike Anderson, and I can't remember who else. It was a good reminder to me of how transformative Mike Shanahan was and how ridiculous his running scheme was and how it just turned out 1,000-yard running backs.
1,000-yard rushes every year, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It also reminded me of something I'm actually mad about, which is that Mike Shanahan is not going into the Hall of Fame, but that Dick Vermeil will be the coaching candidate for the Hall of Fame this year. Mike Tomlin, already in the Hall of Fame, has done a lot. If Mike Shanahan had coached for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 1990s instead of the Denver Broncos, I think he would be mentioned in the same breath as Bill Belichick. We would talk about them as equivalent geniuses to the equivalent impact on the NFL.
Right.
And it would be them too and everybody else. But he didn't coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So
let's do this last one, David, before we talk it to death. over-under win totals 8.5 for the year. Are the Broncos above a 500 win?
You got to match
this year with Teddy Bridgewater. I think that is the question you ask yourself right now.
I'm mashing that over. I'm taking it. Yeah,
I'm taking the over.
Absolutely.
What was the over-under?
8.5. So they got to be 9 and 8. 9 and 8, right? They'll be above 500. So
yeah. I'm taking the over. I think the talent on this team is way too good to not go over 8 wins, 8.5 wins.
Zach is going to take the under there with the 6.
Here, the question is what happens in September. The question is what happens if they go 3-1 in September in the first 4 games. 3-1, I think 9 wins is very obtainable. If we come out flat out of the gates and we're 1-3 in September, Vic doesn't have a job anymore. We're probably calling every massage therapist in Texas to see if Deshaun Watson's available, and then we'll see what happens from there at that point. So, I mean, it's
having done a little bit of a season preview already with Jared, I'll say this: if we don't win 2 or 3 games in September, 8.5 is out the window. You're done. That's it.
Oh,
there's no more.
I mean, our first 4 games are way too soft to.
Yeah. There's no other way.
And the next 4 are damn near impossible. I mean, the next 4 would be it would be great to be real 1-3 out of the next 4. So,
and I think that's doable.
Yeah, of course.
But if you can get some momentum and this team built some confidence behind them, and again, knock on wood, they stay healthy. I think that's very doable. You can even get a surprise win here or there, go 2-2 in that second stretch, and you're looking really good halfway through the season.
If you're 5-3 coming out of 8 games, you're going to be in business. Yeah. We'll be a great season ahead of us.
It's all these games that you would look at on your schedule and say, yeah, that's a get right game. But the Broncos have them all early, so that can either be a good thing or a bad thing. We're gonna have to find out.
Well, there we go. So, first ever Orange Alert here at Orange Weekly. Glad we had this planned and good calling it out, David. Give you props for that. Was it you, David, or was it you, Ray?
You give Jared the props.
No, don't ever give Jared.
Good job, man.
Thank you.
No,
I will now take the next 30 minutes for my speech.
Hold on,
that I have prepared.
Well, one of these nights we'll be doing an Orange Weekly backstage, or after we go live, we'll make another room and you can hear us jibber jabber about bullshit.
Very upset.
David, you want out? Is that what you're trying to tell me? I'll just go ahead and.
And he's back.
Okay. Back now. Oh, it's good. Oh, it's back. All right. No, that was good. I'm glad you said something because I was about to write something really rude about Jared on the wall back here. Not safe for work. So
I will say that the ending video, the outro video here is very Drew Lock heavy. It is going to remain that way until I get some other footage to be able to
get some time to.
Yes. We need. He's got to throw a ball in a Broncos uniform first. So
that's right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
if anybody's got access to those preseason highlights, they'd come in handy right now.
I don't even know if there's enough there to put something in. So we'll see. But just bear with us. Don't tell me after the show that the video still has Lock in it. I know. We're just gonna leave it the way it is. Also has Philip Lindsay. Deal with it. Anyway, love you guys. Thanks for watching. Jared, Ray, and David, you're all awesome as usual. We will see you back halftime hash live during the Broncos game. Jared will be live then. And then when we come back next week for the Bourbon Broncos No BS, Tuesday, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, we will be down to our 53-man roster. So a lot of stuff coming up. Get ready for it. Some big moves coming down the pike, guys. So with that being said, I have nothing else to say other than
go Broncos.
Go Broncos. Take care, everyone.
Do what I like. Yeah, I do what I like. Yeah, I do what I like. Sipping goose, sip is right. And I go with the flow. Yeah, I go with the flow. Yeah, I go with the flow. Cause I know I'm the show. In the zone, here I go. In the zone, here I go. In the zone, here I go. Yeah, they know I'm a pro.